are in we are starting kick off our sales frequency. This is our first radio live in LinkedIn and some other streams. I want to thank you to Eddie and George in the production team, which are making this possible. And yeah, so that's exciting times for us because we start this radio live program where global news meets the frontline sales thinking. And we have with me Will. Good morning, Will.
Morning. Thanks for having me on. I'm feeling slightly out of my comfort zone, considering this is the first time.
This is the first.
This is the first time we've gone live, as it were, on LinkedIn radio. But I'm looking forward to trialing this format, Jesus, and hopefully we can offer some good insight into the for the audience as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, guys. So this is the first time we're doing this, only for 30 minutes. It's gonna be Thursdays, 8:30 to 9 a.m. UK GMT London time. I know that we will have some people joining from other parts of the world. Well, this is what we try to do, and we are gonna be doing this as a test, as a pilot, as we see in LinkedIn and in Netflix and some other platforms, because we really want to. Sorry.
Did you say we're going to be on Netflix, Jesus?
Yeah, we love it, right? So that's my next step. Step. Why not? So no, I'm saying that at the end, we are going to be doing this pilot, and the main purpose of this is to speak about the sales practice that we all love, hate, or work on, but at the same time, speaking in a practical way, trying to bring some news that are currently in the television, in the newspapers, etc., and see how we connect the different sales mindsets and methodologies and best practices we know and we see in all our education programs, in our consulting and digital practices as well, into this kind of stuff, right? So we are learning as we go. So sorry if we make any mistake on any tech or anything. Nothing is wrong. So this is a safe space where we want you to make comments, ask questions, and even jump into the show, right? So that's an important element for us. So yeah. So for today, well, first I want to introduce the poll. We have a poll that we have shared in LinkedIn. Eddie made it through our post. And the question for this week, every week we are gonna be trying to make a poll to see what the audience thinks about specific things. As the theme for today is gonna be the trade in UK-US agreement and everything that might be impacting this kind of sales, right? Maybe the question we have for today is, what is the biggest challenge for sales teams navigating global trade shifts? Right? So it could be adapting pricing, it could be changing buyer needs, supply chain issues, or regulatory hurdles, or maybe all of them, right? Or some of them. So we would love to hear from you. Please use the link provided in the chat and in the post. And we will return with the results later in the session or after the session, depending on how many votes we have. But yeah, we'll return soon with this, right? And of course, if you pick an option, tell us why in the comments. That will be fantastic, right? Or even better, just take the mic. You can just ask us to join, and Eddie and George will be telling me who's going to be joining at every moment. Okay, so let me set up the topic for 1 second, right? Because the trade deals, the tariffs, you know that we are not under a conventional free trade deal between UK and US, and there have been a lot of things in the news, right, about the tariffs. But what's the real difference compared to whatever we had before the announcement of Mr. Donald Trump, right? So when we've done a small research, and we see that if you go through the different industries, cars, steel, aluminum, beef, pharmaceuticals, aerospace, different industries, we are in the same position pre-announcement and after the latest deal between UK and US. So most of them were raised, and now everything has gone back to whatever it was. There is some exceptions, like the cars industry, where we were having 2.5% tariff, were raised to 25%, and then the latest news is down to 10%, right, up to a number of units. So at the end, not many things have changed, but it looks like the US administration is using this strategy to try to negotiate differently with the countries, which is a kind of different arena from this free trade agreement. Indeed, we were hearing one of the Nobel Prizes, Joseph Stiglitz, about this, and he was asked about, well, what the UK should do, right? If has the UK win or not? And there are different opinions, but he commented something we will go through today's conversation. So yeah. So
can I just jump in and just get your thoughts on, well, what do you think America's approach is, and specifically Trump's approach? Because as we know, that all of the tariff kind of policies and deal making has dominated the news agenda for quite some time, and it really still is to some extent. But what do you think Trump is doing? What do you think? Do you think it's helping America? I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because as you've just described, everything seems to be reverting back. Does this, is this about Trump getting deals over the line, or what?
Well, you're asking me a complex question, no? What is in Trump's mind? So that's not an easy thing. I believe he's trying to shake up the way we do trade, and we do different kind of deals between countries at different levels, right? And he's using this as a platform to maybe get more deals, because we've seen some deals that have happened with Qatar this week as well. But to be honest, when we see this and we see that he starts in a place, then raise and then goes down, it's like there are other interests, right? This is part of whatever we wanted to talk about. Is there is, I mean, the international trade is like the master of sales, right? Because if you think about it, when you have a sales between a company and another company, then it's you have the team, the sales leader that is negotiating with the company that is buying. So and you may have different stakeholders, the financial, the CFO, the operations, etc. But here it's much more complex, right? So there is a global net. So when UK and US is making a trade deal, this may affect the rest of the UK with the rest of the world deals too, right? So if you get a good deal with the US, then you have more production to be sent to the US, but maybe you have more supply requirements from other geographies. So everything is interconnected, and this takes me to the relationship mapping that we use normally in our tools and in our education courses. So I think that the map of stakeholders and influencers, taking into not just economists and political people in the government, but also on the companies that are working with the government to do that. It should be very complex. I don't know what you think, Will.
It's yeah. I mean, I'd love to get into the mind of Donald Trump sometimes, but it seems to me that he's sort of developing a sense of chaos. I mean, we saw the markets responding to his Liberation Day when he announced all those tariffs, and then subsequently he's really rolled back and is able to suggest that he has created all these new conversations and negotiations that will benefit the interests of the American population. But I just feel in reality, it's quite as you said, it's quite, his approach seems quite simplistic in many ways. But when you look at it from a global context, there is so much complexity. You mentioned around supply chains, and I think when you look at the news this week, and you see that China commenting that the UK-US trade or trade deal tariff rollback, whatever you want to call it, actually raises a few red flags, because what isn't being addressed is the global supply chain, the global nature of trade, and everything seems to have an impact, and it just creates a huge amount of complexity. And it's interesting. I think, we can see it from a very macro level. This is what seems to be dominating the news agenda. But actually, when you get into the detail and you start talking to customers and clients and things like that, and you see actually the complexities that are involved with different tariff arrangements, for example, between UK, Europe, America, China, it creates a huge amount of complexity that I think businesses are struggling to respond to.
Yeah, I think you're right, Will, because at the end you have multidisciplinary teams that are in this negotiation, rooms, if you want, or war rooms. You can have politics, you have economists, you have intelligence, all the departments from the government, companies, and at the end, I mean, this is not trading about or making a deal about I sell you a solution, right? It's like you have multiple industries, multiple countries, and maybe you are accepting a better agreement into one industry, but you are, maybe destroying some value on other industry in exchange, because at the end, it's not that you can win on everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very complex, and it's an interesting topic to start with this sales frequency series, right? Because it's probably the most
it's a very meaty subject, I think.
Yeah. The other aspect I wanted to talk about is the uncertainty, right? So this is part of the trade deals, but it's also part of the, you don't know. That when you go to a sales process, you try to know as much as you can about what the customer needs, how you can add value, what are the influences that may make the decision or have the budget, etc. Here we've said that the net is quite complicated, that there's some connected dots that previously were maybe not connected, because maybe you are reinforcing one industry in exchange of another one suffering, that before the trade discussions maybe that was not a problem, right? So there are new things that are coming in, but at the same time, this kind of environment where you just wake up in the morning and then you have a new tariff scheme, and then you put on hold, and then you do another deal that reduces this down. What's going to happen tomorrow, right? So this uncertainty, which is like the new normal, the change, is something that is very connected to the topic we heard from very senior leaders 2 weeks ago in our breakfast meeting in London. So I'm not sure about this uncertainty. What do you think, Will, how the company should prepare, right? Because I think it's here to stay, right? It's not something new.
Yeah, it's, as you say, it is complex. I think if I take it back a step as well, I think actually companies and organizations still hold a huge amount of power and sway. If I look at the early days when Trump announced Liberation Day, he sort of rolled back immediately, outlining that there will be an exemption for iPhones, for example.
Yeah.
Because it was too complicated. When you look at, if you look at the component parts of what goes into an iPhone and where they come from, and who manufactures those, chips, and I don't know, all the things that goes into an iPhone, it was quite clear that a lot of it comes from a global supply chain, especially China. So, you can't be putting tariffs against an organization that turns over trillions in revenue, or is worth trillions.
Yeah.
And it echoes what we're hearing in global manufacturing, for example. It's very what goes into a piece of machinery requires a supply chain that covers the entire world. And so how these organizations respond to it is is really challenging, because, as you say, it's operating in a world that is completely uncertain. Now, do you just hope? Do you just hope for the best that actually logic will prevail, or is this, do we need to take this situation incredibly seriously and look to see, how traders manage, where manufacturing comes from?
I think the companies need quite urgently to look at this and think about this change, these constant waves navigation, how they navigate that, because we've seen the stocks, the shares going up and down, and there is another aspect, maybe something worth to discuss, and please, I'll do a small stop here and I'll ask the audience, please jump in and participate. That's about engagement with you guys. It's not about me and Will just talking, right? It's just an open conversation, and super happy for you to join the conversation here virtually, or even post some message or some question or even insight. Thank you very much. So the other thing I'm thinking about, Will, is about the mindsets. That Consalia mindsets, it's the core of our foundation for all the three pillars we work, right? So the education, the consulting, and the digital piece. For the audience reference, so the four sales mindsets that came like the best ones that the buyers are expecting from salespeople in a global research we did, and we are refreshing now. By the way, happy to, if someone wants to join this new refresh, happy to happy to join. So our tactful audacity, proactive creativity, client centricity, and authenticity. I believe that, if I can think about these kind of trade deals with so many uncertainties about, the direction, uncertainties about things you don't know. You don't know all the influences. You don't know all what's going on in every industry, in every company, in every country, right? I think you should probably excel in tactful audacity and proactive creativity to make a deal. And I'm pretty sure that the negotiations between UK and US have had a lot of it. But I'm not sure about the client centricity or the authenticity. Because at the end, if you think about client centricity, probably the team that is negotiating on behalf of UK is thinking on UK, it's not thinking on US, right? At the same time, they are buyers and sellers. So it's a complex negotiation. And on the other side, authenticity is something that becomes complicated when you don't have all the cards with you, right? So what do you think on this?
Yeah, I think you touch on a really important subject, which comes into the values and belief systems, and I think this is something that is, something we're always trying to translate. And within the context of this discussion today, it feels, like values. What are the values that we're seeing that's covering the news agenda, and are they aligned to our own? And when we talk about values, and when we talk about making sure that you are operating from a position of client centricity and authenticity. I mean, when you pinpoint these two values, we're really talking about how to generate trust. And right now, I feel I feel there's a question mark over how tariffs and trade deals are coming about, and is it from a position of trust? Is it from a position of aligned values? And this is a question. I don't think anyone quite knows the answer to this. But what we are seeing is an incredibly proactive, creative approach and tactfully audacious approach coming from the US, but without the trust element. It feels, well, to me, again, happy to be disputed by anyone who might be listening, it feels like it's there's a shift in values. It feels as if we are somewhat pandering. Is that maybe a too strong a word? Pandering to a dominant party, and as a result, it's it feels like we're not operating from a position of trust. Yeah. Over to you, Jesus. Those are my
that's very fair comments. It's not easy to get into this team's head. We are having some comments. That's fantastic, and we're starting to have some votes on the poll. But we will say right at the end. We have having some comments that probably are talking about what is the tariff strategy, right? If it has to be offensive or defensive. What is if we are protectionist, if the regulations and the geopolitical tensions are complicated, right? If there are going to be disruptions in the supply chain. At the end, I think there is a very important topic about how the teams are facing these meetings, right? But probably the preparation for these meetings are important, right? Because at the end, what are the options? Should we say, yeah, okay, we do a trade deal and we are friends with the US, etc., which of course UK has been in good relationships with US versus all the countries. But are there other options? I mean, and we have some stats here, right? So US accounts only for 8.5% of the exports worldwide, right? So 91.5% is exported by someone else. That's number one. And another subject is if we can get the pros from anywhere else. And in terms of UK, 10% of the goods are imported into the UK from the US. And in terms of services, it's 19.5%. So it's doubled. So it looks like in goods, it's something that maybe we can get goods somewhere else. In services, it's something that we are more dependent in the UK, right? But what are the options? So is the option to try to be also offensive, but if you are offensive, then you have to probably get some plan B of how to be it. So join forces with, because you are talking about two countries that are not peers, right? So we are talking about US and UK. UK is very big, but US is bigger, right? So what are really the options? As like partnering with other countries, and okay, US is a problem on these tariffs. Let's join all the countries that may have the same problem with the US. That's one option. Another, they were trying to diversify and not have so much dependency into the US is another thing, another important, interesting thing. So maybe we need to try to see how we can re-engineer the demand. I mean, there are different options, and we can also see countries like China. They have, they speak about tariffs, but they have been investing heavily on Africa, for instance, for manufacturing, etc. Recently, they've announced $1.7 billion in foreign direct investment into Ethiopia, in mainly focused on rares and some other industrial stuff and energy. So, and they've raised from, I don't know, 3 billion 3 years ago to 50 billion announced this year, right? So I think there is no right or wrong, right? But what do you think, Will, about the different options? It's like, would you be offensive or defensive? What do you think?
I think it's a difficult question to answer within just 5 minutes, Jesus. But one of the audiences really mentioned rising protectionism, and I think this is what we're seeing. And I think this is what we saw when it came to Brexit. I think this is what we're seeing in America. I think within Europe, Europe could do more to engage with the UK. So it's a two-way street, but it's about opening countries being open to having a discussion, right? To unlock trade. I mean, even though it was relatively relatively small, but the recent trade deal that we had with India, for example, that was announced a week or so ago now, is a positive signal. The US, even though yes, we do have a trade deal with the US now, it's a positive signal, and it would be great if, hopefully, we see more of these, countries coming together. But my fear is, and going back to what I said at the start, my fear is that the news agenda, what I can see, is that there is just simply a rise of protectionism.
That's true. That's
and
true.
nationalism, and that's not healthy for trade. It's not healthy for selling. It puts so much pressure on clients, customers, on supply chains, and everything else. So
I agree. Will, thank you. So sorry, we have our correspondent from South Korea, Phil Squire. Good afternoon, Phil. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we
hear
can
you
hear
very
you.
well. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. We just have a few minutes left, but we will love. I mean, we know that you've been following all the conversation, and we would love to hear from you what you think about defending versus, attacking. What do you think about the tariffs? And yeah.
No, I know that all the conversation around tariffs, the uncertainty in the marketplace, I think has caused a huge amount of slowdown in global economy, and you're seeing investment decisions being delayed until people can figure out what to do. But for me, the interesting thing is why the tariff? Why have the tariffs been created? And I think that to understand the why, maybe to explain a little bit better the reasons why America has done what they've done. And I think a lot of it's got to do with national debt. Over the last 100 years, the national debt in America has gone from like 300 billion to 34 trillion.
Yeah.
And currently the interest rates being so high is the servicing of national debt is now a huge economic problem to America. So I'm not an economist, but if you're looking at how is America, if we're going to make America great again, how are they going to deal with the GDP issues around servicing debt and money available for investment in public infrastructure projects? Maybe that kind of explains the reason why Trump, in his wisdom, has decided to focus on tariffs. It's not really providing any answers to anything, but it's really understanding. We've seen behavior, and a lot of our discussions have been around behavior. But if we can understand the reasons for behavior, it may be easier to make better sense of the kind of conversations that have been taken place. So it's not really, I don't know. It's, for me, it's a defensive strategy, not an offensive strategy, even though Trump has presented it as an offensive strategy. I think it's defensive, and I think America's got a lot of problems at the moment, and they need to figure out ways of dealing with it.
Yeah, maybe the question if it's the right defensive strategy, right, as well, because
I mean, I think you can see from the evidence it seems not to be the right strategy, but yeah, I think we don't really know the real reasons for it, but it may be grounded in some serious economic problems, and I think that could have worrying implications for the global economy. Because America is such a driving force. So the issue may be how can the American economy be fixed, and if it's not fixed, the impact it has for all of us.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, Phil, and we have just a few seconds. And is there anything you're hearing there in South Korea about the tariffs? Anything relevant?
Yeah, I mean, in Korea, you've got the problem with tariffs, and you've got the problems with an impeached prime minister. So he's currently languishing, waiting to decide, and it's a real pantomime actually here. If you talk to, so I think Korea's not been used to economic stagnation, so there's a huge amount of frustration in Korea about the general state of the nation. They simply don't know. They've never had to deal with something as uncertain as the period of time that they've got now. Possibly, arguably, the worst president they've ever had has. So
Okay.
yeah, lots of slightly negative talk about the economy over here.
Yeah. Okay, I imagine. Okay. Thank you very much, Phil. So thank you very much to everyone that was making comments. Franz, Donald, I think we cover our time. We want to be strict on time with the 30 minutes. We'll be back next Thursday, same time. The poll is now on with some votes, still a few votes, 50% changing buyer needs and 50% supply chain issues. I'm pretty sure that we'll have more votes. We'll leave that for a couple of days, and we will do a post on it. So thank you very much to Will, Phil, Eddie, George, and everyone that has participated. I mean, we are trying to make it like live, fresh, not academic. It's more about commenting in an informal coffee chat, let's say, on Thursday mornings about real news and how we see the news from the sales perspective, right? So thank you, everyone, and please join us on the next one. By the way, was last comment. If you want a topic or one of the news that is now live in the news, right, to be commented in this new initiative from us, just send us a message. Very, very happy. This is about engaging with you guys and having an open conversation. I hope that we are less shy in the future and people can take the mic more frequently. Thank you very much.
Thank you.